This is Virtual Chess Noob, learning and having fun with chess. Today I've got another game of the Giraffe Attack. Let's go take a look. So white pieces, e4, e5, knight c3, the Vienna, and of course my opponent plays the Anderson defense with bishop to c5. Now we saw that yesterday in the quick win.
Mr. Anderson.
And against the Anderson, we bring out the queen to g4, immediately attacking the g7 square. Now here, this is a pretty tricky position for black to navigate, and very commonly black will bring out their queen. And basically what they're trying to do is to counter-attack, be aggressive as well, attack my f2 pawn with a potential scholar's mate. Now this is actually a real threat, because let's say I do something a little bit silly like a3, well then you can see mate in two, because queen captures the pawn, king is forced here, and that would be mate. So let's not do that. However, here we've got a very natural move, which is develop the other knight to f3. So that tactic is no longer possible. That queen is maybe a little bit awkwardly placed. And also remember, one of the foundational, thematic ideas of the Vienna is planting this knight onto d5. It covers those two squares. So queen gets attacked. Also a potential absolute fork of the king and rook. So in fact, in this position, black really needs to defend the d5 square. Now the best way to do that is for them to develop the knight to that square, or to develop that pawn. Neither of those moves are terribly obvious, I would say. If you weren't seeing this, weren't expecting this, that is potentially quite a surprise. Now here, black decided that they really didn't like my queen in that location and opted to try to kick the queen with knight to the edge of the board, attacking the queen. Here, we've got a very simple move, which is parking the queen on the g3 square. In the giraffe game, that is often the good square for the queen to go to, and it exerts sort of long-term pressure potentially on e5. Now, here, remember the d5 square? Black really needs to defend that square. And here they make a mistake. A very natural move, queen looking at e5, playing a d6, you get a diagonal, that makes sense. However, that is a mistake. And that is a blunder. In fact, that blunder is about +8. This is how absolutely venomous the giraffe attack potentially can be. Knight to d5, attacking the queen, attacking the c7 square, and now black has a serious problem, because obviously they need to do something about their queen. However, if they defend the c7 square, they're unable to defend a g7 at the same time, which is the whole purpose of the queen being there. Now, my opponent here thought for quite some time. You can see almost 3 minutes, a little bit over 3 minutes. They decided to let g7 go, and now bang. And you can see the best move for black there was really to try to force a trade of queens. So captures, they move the rook, that's fine. That was a potential fork. I now capture that knight. They develop, but here it's really my game to win. So I bring the other knight forward for an attack. They now counterattack my knight. And here I actually thought for a while. I didn't quite see what the best move was. Eventually I decided, look, I'll just trade that knight to capture the pawn with another attack on the rook. So that's what I opted to do. But you can see Stockfish could see that knight to e6 was best. And that really is quite a tricky move, because here we go, knight to e6, attacking the queen. It looks like you're going to have to move the queen somewhere. But, they need to really do something, because if they do nothing about that knight and the queen stays there, well, firstly, I can capture the queen. But more than that, let's say they'd make a sort of a non-move like that. This would now be mate. because everything is covered. Now, the most obvious looking move is to, take that rook, so take that knight. But that is another mate because I now have queen, captures e6 with check, only move, and then mate. So that is a really tricky position. Basically, black needs to move the queen to potentially one of these squares to give the king escape room. So it is not an easy position for black to play. I didn't see that in the game, as I said, so instead I took that pawn instead. They took the knight, I now took that rook, captures back, and here I'm sort of up +4 material. I'm still rock solid. Haven't sort of really developed anything else, but I'm completely rock solid. So I'm not in any real risk. So let's take that pawn. Now this pawn now sort of exerts that sort of control on the 6th rank. They try to develop the bishop, but it doesn't work because look at all these diagonals that's sort of open, towards the king. They're in some real trouble. So bishop b5 with check. Pretty much they have to block, I think, with the bishop. However, black wanting to, not move the bishop twice, decides to move their king, a blunder, because now these diagonals, which I talked about before, they're completely lost. Queen to g5 with check. Here, my opponent opted to resign because their only move is to block with the pawn, and then that would be mate. So in this position, they opted to resign. Good game, GG. My big takeaway from this game is to try the Giraffe Attack against the Anderson defense in the Vienna game. It is a very fun and very winning line, and I think you'd like it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.